Welcome back to Secret Weapons. My name is Mark Johnston. If this is your first time here, this is a YouTube channel where we do gear demos and reviews, as well as studio tips and tricks for leveling up your writing, playing, and production from the perspective of a guitar player working out of a studio. If that's the kind of thing that would appeal to you, please hit that subscribe button and stick around for future videos. Today, we're taking a look at a brand new collaboration between Old Blood Noise Endeavors and Emily Hopkins, Parting. Parting is a really fascinating piece of gear from Old Blood because in one hand, it is Old Blood to a T. This is a glitchy, experimental, wide, ambient piece of sound design technology. But on the other side, where Old Blood tends to kind of take one idea and drill it down really aggressively, this is more of a throwing a bunch of things into a blender together kind of affair, which is probably where the Emily Hopkins collaboration comes into play. What you have in Parting is a stereo in, stereo out, MIDI capable digital device with a modulation section, a dissolve section, and a, let's just call it a time-based section of the pedal. And all these different sections kind of come together to create one giant experimental, glitchy, somewhat unpredictable, but sometimes very predictable piece of ambient sound design technology that doesn't always have to be ambient. So let's kind of talk about its component parts here. In the top left-hand corner, you have a rate, depth, and a shape control. And this is going to kind of be, in many ways, the beating heart of the pedal, if dissolve is the actual kind of spiritual heart of the pedal. But the rate, depth, and the shape are going to be the LFO in this thing assigned to either a tremolo or a vibrato. But in either case, it also controls the kind of LFO speed of this pedal that things like the chance and dissolve and glitch controls all revolve around. This thing can be run in mono or in stereo. And when you run it in stereo, the depth is going to be obviously the intensity of the effect, but is also going to increase the left-right severity of the modulation. Rate gets insanely fast in this thing. You can get it pretty slow, but it also goes intense, which you can also have or double time with this aux control if you have it assigned to that. And shape gives you control over a variety of different LFOs, from sines, squares, triangles, and randoms to an envelope control that will kind of basically allow rate and depth to operate as a kind of conventional sine wave for modulation, but instead assigns an envelope follower to the chance control. More on that later. I find it useful to group chance, smear, and glitch together as well. Chance is the likelihood that your audio gets sent to a delay inside of Parting, with kind of south of noon being the frequency with which and the odds of your audio getting sent to that delay. The delay time, of course, controlled over here with a little delay mini knob. But above noon, you can reliably get audio sent into it from more conventional delay, and the feedback loop kind of increases in that context, giving you basically more repeats, allowing you to approximate an actual delay in this pedal and not just a straight up glitch machine. At maximum, you are not going to get self-oscillating runaway noise. You will basically just get a sound on sound looper, with the loop length once again determined by that mod time control over here. But once you have some audio in that delay feedback path, using that chance control, you can then modulate it and mess with it in other ways. The modulation can be opposed upon that delay line or upon your dry signal as well. More on that later. But when you have audio in that path, you can use smear to feed it into or diffuse it with a reverb in this thing, giving you big, washy soundscapes. And you can increase this glitch control right here, which is the odds and frequency by which the LFO halves or double times, basically speeding up or slowing down that delay by half or double, jumping the octave up and down, basically giving you these kind of glitchy pops and drops in your wet path. And I think that's a good time to bring us to this center control right here. This is dissolve, and it is the only knob that notches at noon. At noon, dissolve is not doing anything. You just have a modulation section and a delay / reverb / half and double time section. But when you take this dissolve control counterclockwise from noon, you reduce the sample rate and fidelity of your signal, crunching it down into lo-fi bit crushing madness. Or you can take it up from noon clockwise and basically start reversing your signal. Once again, either dry signal as well or just the wet signal. As you push that dissolve further clockwise, you stretch out how long that reverse signal is, lowering the fidelity in that same way that you would get with real-time fidelity drops going counterclockwise. And all of these things interplay very, very effectively. Your modulation modulates that delay and that reverb. That glitch control will half and double time that LFO that can then be running through a lo-fi fire or into a kind of global reversal of all the signal. And like I said, you've got this aux control over here, or your rate control that controls the speed of the LFO going, but you can also set a separate time for the delay on this right side using this little knob right here. A very important inclusion, in my opinion, on this pedal is a filter control over here as well. This dissolve obviously creates lo-fi bit crush noise, which comes with some requisite white noise, which, to be fair, I think sounds quite good. But if you want it to be mellowed out, you have a filter that can function as either a high pass or a low pass for either thinning out those octave downs or for taming some sizzle if that's what you want. And at the bottom is what I think is maybe a very underrated inclusion on this device, and that is your mix control. And not just the mix control, but a little toggle next to it that lights up that mix for two different versions of mix control. One is the conventional mode, dry signal with the ability to blend to all of that wet signal stuff running. But the other one being when you click this little switch right here and this mix knob lights up, you now have the modulation and the dissolve imposed upon your dry signal. So you've switched from a situation where you have your dry signal and then all this modulation, delay, reverb, and bit crushiness kind of swirling around it. And instead, you have that real-time modulation and reversal and sample rate reduction on your dry tone with a blend control to that chance knob and that glitch and that diffusion. So that is kind of where we live in my demo here today. Emily Hopkins has obviously a great video up on her channel as well today. I will link to that down below if you want to hear more of the conventional mix version, but I really gravitated towards the kind of hybrid version, the kind of alternate version of the wet dry mix in this device. And we spend most of our video leaning into that because I think it's a really interesting approach to a mix control for a device such as this. So obviously with all these things like chance and glitch and all that, you have a device that lives very much in that kind of happy accident world, but with the inclusion of MIDI, with the inclusion of an aux control that allows you to create bursts of those LFO drops and doublings and everything, you can also wrangle a lot of these happy accidents into perceived happy accidents that you have some control over. There is MIDI and alternate controls on this device for subdivisions for both your LFO and the delay itself. So all that to say, Parting is a very interesting release because it is both very ambitious and very kind of deep and obtuse in many ways. But once you have a handle on its kind of requisite parts, I find that it's actually quite accessible. So let's go ahead and plug this thing back in and give it a listen. So as always, before we get into our sound samples, let's talk through our signal chain and the context we're working in. I am playing my Fender 52 reissued Telecaster into the 29 pedals Una, the Cali 76 compressor by Origin Effects, the Benson Germanium boost, and the Universal Audio Lion amp in a box. We are running mono in, stereo out to the Old Blood Noise Endeavors Parting, and then running directly into our interface via the Warm Audio WA273 microphone preamps. Recording in Pro Tools, this is what our dry tone sounds like. Intentionally very dry, very straightforward. So we'll explain each of these knobs as we kind of get to them, but let's start simply and take a look at rate, depth, and shape from the perspective of it being both a tremolo and a vibrato. As you can tell, the brightness of this LED right here indicates the depth of the modulation, while the rate of it obviously is being controlled by the rate control. And of course, you have a variety of waveforms to choose from. We're currently in kind of a standard sine wave. You can switch to a square and a variety of others. Always love a good random. So let's take a look at this chance control and its relationship to glitch and smear, and time, obviously. Chance is going to be the odds that your guitar or instrument are fed into a feedback loop where the speed or time of the loop is obviously determined by this time right here. Glitch will then randomly modulate the clock speed, and smear will kind of morph that into a reverb or blend it into a reverb, depending on how you want to define that. Turning chance up from minimum to noon increases the frequency with which your signal is entered into that delay loop, or feedback loop, so to speak. And then past noon, it increases the feedback within that delay. So increased number of repeats from single repeats down here. So here at minimum, we have no delay. And let's take the modulation out just so that we're being very clear about what's happening here. And then right as we get up here to about noon, everything should be entering into that loop. And feedback should be increasing from here. And obviously, we just turned off that mix control. Where now everything is being processed in parallel versus blending your modulation with your delay feedback information. So if I turn these up, you'll hear my dry sound versus my dry sound being modulated at all times, and blending the modulation on the delay. Versus my signal itself being modulated. Take it to maximum delay time. Blend some reverb diffusion. And this glitch control will randomly change and kind of subdivide the LFO controlling that delay speed, halving it or doubling it. So. Above noon, it basically just rolls the dice and changes the speed every single time you pass the kind of like peak of your LFO reset. So dissolve is the coolest part of this entire pedal. It's the thing that really takes parting and makes it sound the way this image on the pedal itself looks. From noon, this is the only control that notches at noon right here. From noon, counterclockwise, it degrades your signal, reducing the sample rate and creating kind of a lo-fi texture that can be blended really well with that filter control. Clockwise, from noon, it reverses your signal and kind of both degrades it, but also increases the bizarreness and randomization of the reversal. So it doesn't just reverse your signal, but you can also change the subdivision of the clock as you reverse. So from noon, we have and then from noon going clockwise, you will hear our dry signal completely go away immediately because we are in that alternate mix mode, and this is all being affected on my dry. So to kind of better highlight that, let's go ahead, turn that back off, bring our delay back in as a kind of pretty reliably consistent delay. And degrade that delay itself. Or reverse that delay. Further and further subdividing into those reversals. And then rolling back that low pass filter to go ahead and soften up some of that degrading tonality. Add some reverb. And introduce some modulation. And then make the whole thing chaos. random LFO.